Hi, and welcome to the module on the ActiveDEMAND Query Builder. The ActiveDEMAND Query Builder is used really all over the place in ActiveDEMAND. It's used to build contact lists and segments, and it's also used to provide decision making. So that's where you'll start to use it in workflows to kind of add some smarts to it. You'll use query logic and the query builder in pop-ups, dynamic content blocks, autoresponders, lead processing workflows. All over the place where you need to do something based on how customers are reacting. So it's fairly important that we understand how it works and we're able to use it. Now, when we talk about query, it kind of acts like a Venn diagram almost, like we're using these different filters to try to get that perfect audience or to make the right decision. So when we're using it against a list of contacts, for example, it can almost act like a Venn diagram where we might have customers in one circle and we add another query on top of that to find the customers that have visited in the last 30 days and we get a smaller subsection. This allows us to target customers and target prospects really well. So it's a really important technique to know about. There are several different operators. I'll just talk a little bit about each of them. First, exists. Exists just checks that there is a value in the field. This is useful if you want to find if something's been filled in. Like if I want to find out if a customer's ever filled in a form and they have an email, I can say, does email exist? You know, that's a very easy way to use this. I can also use this to check if they have a phone number, if they have a contact manager, or any of these other things. So we're just checking to see if that field has ever been filled in. Equals looks for the exact match on that field. So sometimes you can pre-fill these in if there's a small number of things that they could be, such as if you're checking if they belong to a particular list, you could use equals. Contains is useful if you want to match on a wide variety of possibilities. So if I want to find everyone from a company and all I have is their email addresses, I could say contains companyname.com or @companyname.com for their email, and I would grab them all, right? So it can be very useful. Is one of is kind of like equals, but you're allowed to select multiples of them. So this is used if you need to, for example, one of the things we use this for is, did the customer fill out any of these 4 really important forms? And then we can find out, okay, well then they're this kind of a customer, for example. Less than, greater than or equal to. We're frequently using this one when we're doing date-based math. So if we want to find those customers that were on the website in the last 60 days, for example, we can check site visit greater than or equal to 60 days ago, and that'll grab all of them in the last 60 days. Finally, Regex is a very powerful way of building queries. Primarily, the place we see a lot of our customers using this is to join together a lot of different contains statements. So rather than adding in like a million contains statements, what they'll do is use Regex and use the OR pipes in there to join up a whole bunch of different possibilities. So if you were looking for a few different companies and you wanted them all included in one, you could look for company name, Regex, company 1, pipe, company 2, pipe, company 3, and that would get it done. Now let's take a look at some basic queries. Now this first query that we have here is just checking if the contact has an email address. This is a useful one if you're going to send an email to some people. Sometimes this is useful to have in there just in case people are adding contacts without email addresses. Now at least you'll be making sure that you're emailing people with email addresses, which kind of seems like a prerequisite. So that's one of the things I could do. Another thing I could do is filter for just people with a particular kind of email address. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. You can see here that I have and or. Or is just like if either of these things are true, then let them through. And means that both of them have to be true. So I'm going to say both. Email address contains, and here's where I can get a little bit more free flow. So I could say equals, and I could put my email address in here, whichever one I'm looking for, or I could say contains. Contains is really powerful. I can go test.com, for example. Now that will return everyone who has an email address, and their email address contains test.com, for example. So that's one way of doing this. I could also do starts with or exists, and there's lots of different versions here. I could also do that regex thing I was talking about before, or I could go test.com, pipe, test2.com, pipe, competitor3.com, or whatever I want to look for to filter against. Now we have the concept of different blocks and groups together. So you can see here we're on block A, group 1. Group 1, we're just acting against the same thing, which is an email address here. If we want to, we can add groups outside of this one, the group 2, or we can even add blocks outside of this one. So you can see that we can have multiple layers. Now this looks confusing, but it's not actually that bad. Just imagine these like brackets in your grade 6 algebra. And that's what we're looking for here, is we're just bracketing these against each other. So this lets us do more complicated logic than if we just had one block level, for example. But because we have multiple block levels, we're able to do some pretty crazy stuff. Now we're going to build out a query, and what I want to do with this query is make it guess as to whether a customer or prospect is interested in a particular product. And I want to do something. I want to market to them differently because they're interested in this product. I'm going to build this thing so it's kind of smart, and it kind of takes a couple of different guesses as to whether someone is interested in a product. So this is a simplified example, but I'm going to make it pretty full-featured in what it's looking for. So for the first thing, I'm going to try to find out if they visited a page with a URL that contains product X. There's our product name. So that's the first thing I'm going to look for. And I'm going to put here or, because just that all by itself should be enough for me to tell that they're interested in that product. The next thing I'm going to look for is if they came from a website that had product X in the URL. Maybe there's some review sites out there that have it, or that kind of thing. So I'm going to look for that under refer. I'm going to say refer contains product X. Oh, good. It's remembering that I want ORs. That's handy. Next, I'm going to look to see if they mentioned product X on a phone call with us. Let's see. Tracked phone calls. Transcript contains product X. And you probably already know where this is going, but there was also a live chat transcript here, so I can see if they've been chatting about that on with our support people. So I'm going to put that one in there as well. So you can see how powerful this is. I can kind of combine in a whole bunch of different ways for the system to infer that a customer is interested in a particular product. And I am choosing to put these all under a contact segment so that I can reuse it in a lot of different places. I could reuse this in a dynamic content block. I could reuse this in an email. I could reuse this all over the place to help to personalize the experience for this customer and encourage them to purchase that product X. Now I want to show you how we can use that contact segment in a workflow and how we can add on more queries. So here we have a decision tree where we're checking if they're interested in that product X. And right now it's set up to just check if they've shown interest within this campaign. Now, actually, I think I want to just market to everyone who's ever shown an interest in this product X. So I'm going to switch that over to global. You'd also use global if you were checking for anything, any kind of customer details that weren't within the scope of this campaign, for example. So interest in product X, I don't care if they were doing it outside of this campaign. I just care that they did it. So now I'm going to look for that contact segment. And I want to see if it equals, what do we call again? Interested in product X. There we go. Now I don't want to send the promo email to people who are already customers. So I'm going to add another query on top of this segment. So I'm going to go ahead and add it at this group level. And I'm going to say and, because it means both of these are going to need to be true. And I'm going to look for, I think, one deal name exists. Yeah, if we ever had a one deal with this person, wait, I need to make this and not. There we go. So if they're interested in product X and they haven't ever won a deal with us, then they can go through and we can send the email about product X. Otherwise, we go down here and we just send them a generic email. If you're interested in learning more about query building, go to support.activedemand.com and check out our article on query building concepts, where we have lots more information on building out queries.